Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm joined in the studio by my cat Rascal. Rascal, say hi. Oh yeah, oh, there's the boobs. He's a good boy. Yes, he is. He's going to be joining me in the studio today. He's #1 studio cat out of all the 5 cats that I do own. He joins me most frequently in here, and he loves to sit on the back of my chair and just kind of keep me company, and that's what he's going to do today. For today's video, I held a poll on my channel, and I asked you guys what you wanted to see coming soon, and an overwhelming amount of you actually voted for a watercolor art supply tour. And that's exactly what I'm doing here today. I'm going to share my art supplies that I use for watercolor with you. So that includes paper, brushes, tools, and of course the paint themselves. I'll be talking about what I use certain products for, why I have multiple types of paper, why I only have one type of brush, why I have multiple brands of paint. If you look here, say hi, Rascal. We have all these paints here to share with you today, and there's even more that you can't see because I just can't fit them all into frame. So there is a lot to talk about today, and I'm excited to talk about it because I love talking art supplies. It's one of my favorite things to do. So why don't you join me, get yourself a cup of coffee if you're just chilling, or a cup of tea, whatever your fancy is. Hope maybe if you're listening to this while working or something, it provides just a nice ambience for you guys. Whatever you do, I hope it helps. And how about we go ahead and get started, shall we? Yeah, see? I got my studio cat. Aww. He's so good. Okay, so me and Rascal are all settled in and here to talk about watercolor art supplies. I'm going to start with paper because I feel paper, at least for me, is probably the most important part of watercolor for me. I struggle to use cellulose paper. Really, I do. I used to use it, and honestly, I just thought I was bad at watercolor. So I stopped doing watercolor. I tried to do it again a few years back, probably back about 2019 now. And I was struggling but doing better, and that's when I found a video talking about 100% cotton paper. And when I heard about that, I heard about this brand Arches for the first time. And really, I took a leap because it was very expensive, but I saw results in like comparison videos from cold press 100% cotton paper to cold press cellulose paper. I gave it a shot, and I fell in love with watercolor. So really, paper is what did it for me. So this is the very famous Arches 100% cotton cold press watercolor paper, 140 pound, 300 GSM at a 9x12 size. Now all the paper I'll be talking about today is going to be 140 pound, it's going to be cold press, it's going to be 100% cotton, it's going to be acid-free archival paper. The only thing that's going to change is the size. So Arches was the first paper, or 100% cotton paper, that I tried, and really I fell in love with it. It made me fall in love with watercolor to be one of my most favorite mediums to this day, from one I thought I was terrible at, actually. This paper has to be probably the roughest out of all the paper that I use. I'll kind of default to it, and I'll cut it down to size if I need to. But it's kind of my default go-to paper when I'm not sure what I'm looking for. It's got a very random texture to it. It's not very machine looking. It's hard to see like on this. So what I'm going to do is reach over and grab a piece of artwork that I'm currently working on. So you guys get to see a work in progress today too. This is done on Arches cold press paper. It is a picture portrait of my father-in-law's dog. You can see it still needs some work in the ear and a little bit here, but you can see the texture, hopefully, if we bring it in close. Maybe you can kind of see that texture of the paper. I don't know if it translates well to camera, but I tried. But that is my go-to paper when I'm not sure what I want to do. And I'll stay full size if I'm looking for like a good size thing like a portrait like I'm doing there. But if I want to do something smaller, I'll just cut it down to 8 by 10. But if I'm feeling lazy, I have some options for that as well. My number one option for feeling lazy is the Strathmore 500 series Ready Cut watercolor paper in 8 by 10. I got this packet of 10 sheets from Paletful Packs. And I was a little bit leery because I'd only ever used the 300 and 400 series, which are cellulose paper, so I thought it was cellulose based as well. But no, it's their 500 series premium, and it is cold press cotton, the whole 9 yards. I'm actually almost out of this paper. I literally only have 1 sheet left in this packet, and I will have to order some more. It's on my list. It's fairly inexpensive as well, whereas Arches can be a little bit more pricier. I believe off Amazon, this Strathmore paper is maybe like $13 for 10 sheets, I want to say. Sometimes it bounces around and goes a little bit lower. Sometimes it goes a little bit higher. You know how Amazon can be. But it's a very lovely, almost delicate texture to the paper. It's not very mechanical in its cold press. It still comes off very organic, shall we call it. I'm trying to look for a better word, but organic seems to be the word that's coming to mind. If I'm doing delicate work that doesn't want the roughness of Arches, I will actually reach for this paper on purpose, not just because I'm being a lazy bum that doesn't want to cut paper. But to real quick show a piece on this paper. It won't show off the texture very well because it's framed. But there we go. This was done on the Strathmore Ready Cut paper with ennelier watercolors. So it compounded to a very delicate, light look for it. And I greatly appreciate that look for flowers. So oftentimes I will pair this with my ennelier watercolors and do something a little bit more delicate in nature. Or if I'm just feeling lazy. Now speaking of lazy, it came open. There we go, nailed it. Is the Fluid 100 cold press watercolor paper. Also 8 by 10. This one comes in 12 sheet packets, or I think they're called like paches or something fancy. It's kind of like an envelope, an unglued envelope. Pop it open like that, and it opens totally all the way. This one has a little bit more of a machine look to it in its cold press, but I still like it nonetheless. Actually, I did not pick out this paper. My husband did on one of our trips to Jerry's down in Austin. We were looking around, and I'm always looking for new supplies to test for you guys and give my opinion on. And he found this. He's like, this doesn't look familiar, and it says it's the cotton like you liked. Do you want to try it? It's really cheap. And I was like, well, that all sounds like wonderful things to me, so let's go ahead and give it a shot. And I do like it. I probably use this in between the delicateness of the Strathmore paper to the roughness of the Arches. It probably falls in between. So if I'm wanting lazy, but I want a little more texture, or the machine looking texture doesn't bother me, I will grab this one. And I also have this one in hot press as well, and I will use that for gouache paintings and other things like that, or watercolors that I want smooth. I grab the hot press of this paper, which is really nice. Now on to more specialized paper. The first one here is going to be Legion paper. This is Stonehenge Aqua Cold Press. Its size is 7 by 10, which I normally cut down to 5 by 7. But I usually tape it off first because this is in fact a block. So this is paper I take with me when I travel and don't want to come off with a taped board with something ready to paint. It's sealed with glue on all 3 sides here, on the bottom and sides, and on the top here we can kind of just make out the glare of the glue, and now it stops right here. You can peel it up by cutting the glue with a palette knife all the way around, and it just comes right off. But it's great for travel in that I don't have to worry about taping anything down to a board. I don't have to worry about my paper warping. And like I said, normally I'll run a piece of artist tape or washi tape down the middle and size it off for 5x7. So that way it's a little more of a standard size, shall we say. And it's very good paper. I'd say it's a little mechanical in its nature. For this one, I'm actually going to show off a piece that's unfinished that I abandoned because I did not like how it was turning out. I used the full size here, and I didn't like how I pulled the watercolor here on the edge, so I abandoned it, and I want to try again with another go at it, but I'm going to share it because we can see maybe the texture of the paper a little bit. So yeah, there we go. I was just checking something. So that is my cold press block. I also have a hot press block of it as well. Same thing if I want to do more gouache or if I want to do character or fan art, I have hot press there for me. Then last but not least, I have my Etcher sketchbook, which I admittedly haven't used much. Still relatively new to me. I'm not the biggest sketchbook person, but I like to have one on hand just in case. They're great for travel, they're great for studies, and I've been making note to try and use my sketchbooks a little bit more. In fact, coming up in a future video will be how to use your sketchbook, fill it up 5 different ways when you're feeling a little uninspired. 5 ways to fill your sketchbook. There we go. Got it. Nailed it. This is a watermelon I tried to do. Here's a study of one of my newest watercolors I have there. And then I have a study of the water lily that I should have painted before I did the final water lily, but I'm not very smart, so here we are. I kind of just took a leap of faith and painted it because I wanted to hopefully list it for sale at an art event that we were at. Unfortunately, it did not sell, which is why it's framed and just kind of hanging out here until I find a space for it. So that is all of my papers. Before we talk paint, let's talk brushes and tools, because they're probably a little less interesting than, say, sit nice, sit nice. Got it. My go-to water jar for smaller pieces or traveling are these little yogurt jars. They have a little tinfoil lid that you can just peel off, and then you can reuse the jar once you clean it out. I have a few of these scattered around the house. I keep one in my travel bag. They just come in great handy. For my actual desk, if I'm doing larger pieces or doing a lot of pieces in a row, I actually have mason jars. So I do 2 cups of water in 2 mason jars, small mason jars, not like the big 16-ounce big ones, but like I guess they're 8 ounces, so they're about half the size. Up next is tape, and I used Pro Artist tape. I just got this off Amazon, and I have it in the thicker size, which I use to paint the tape off my paintings. There we go. Words are hard. I use it to tape off my paintings, and it works really well. It's never torn the paper, and it's been just a good workhorse for me. And then I have this smaller one that I used to tape my half pans and label them with what the paint is inside the half pan, because I always like to know that and make sure I'm using the right pigment or the right brand, especially if I take them out and use them for a glamour shot for something, or Instagram or what have you. I like to have what it is on it so I can put it back where it belongs. Up next, we'll talk brushes. Tools, they kind of fall into the category of tools, because there's something you use for watercolor that's not your paper and it's not your paint. I guess it's a tool. I use Silver Brush Limited, Black Velvets in the round. 8, 6, 4, and 2 are my go-to brushes for this. I also have a 0 script liner and a 1/2 inch oval wash brush as well. But for the most part, I tend to use my rounds. I think the number 4 is probably the one I use most and will take with me traveling. It's not too small, it's not too big. It can do fine detail work, but it can also cover a decent area as well. So the 4 kind of is the number 1 used brush for me personally. But these are lovely brushes, so you can kind of see there. They are a synthetic squirrel hybrid, if I'm not mistaken, and they hold a lot of water. It takes quite a bit of getting used to from other brushes. So if you decide you want to try these, just do some practice first. Don't jump right into a final piece. Do some practice in your sketchbook or on some scratch paper and get used to just how much water these can hold, because it took me by surprise at first, but at least I had warning as well when I tried them for the first time, so I was prepared for it. So hopefully I've prepared a couple of you if you plan on ever trying those brushes. But I think that's enough of paper, brushes, tools, other things like that. I think we all want to hear about paint. We want to hear about paint, why I have so many paint brands, why I use what for what. We just want to talk paint, don't we? So I'm going to slide these off to the side, and we're going to go in order from my newest palette to my oldest palette. And I'm going to talk a little about each one, why maybe I haven't quite used it yet, or what I use it for, or my plans for it, and we'll just go ahead and have a little fun, shall we? So first off the big pile is Roman Schmal. This is my newest palette. I've only had it for a week, I think. Yeah, a little over a week. I've only gotten to test it once in my sketchbook. That was the bell pepper that we saw. The red bell pepper was done in Roman Schmal. This is a custom palette I designed myself, which is still missing a few colors. I wasn't feeling the best when I was ordering. I've been sick a lot this year, and when I ordered, I was feeling a little under the weather, and probably missed a few of my favorites, but it's definitely enough to work. And to show it off again, this is Roman Schmal with a white gel pen. Lovely, love the colors. They're bright, they're vibrant. I love them. I believe they are honey-based watercolor. I believe a commenter, a subscriber, sent that to me in a comment on the haul video that featured these. These are also honey-based. And they definitely have that tacky nature, so I believe it. I feel like I want to add another green, maybe like a purple, an orange, like some of your secondary colors a little bit more would be nice, since I've got double primaries here. I've also picked up magenta, some earth tones, and some fun colors as well. But I definitely think I could use some more secondary colors in this palette, because it seems like it's going to be a palette that I draw to when I want bright, vibrant colors, because that's just what I'm getting from this paint. And I love it, and it did not break the bank when I picked it up. Not only are they regularly priced very nicely, but Jackson's, who I bought them from, had a sale and made them even cheaper, so they were only like $3-ish for a half pan, depending on which color pigment you picked up. So it was a great deal, a great price, and I can't wait to add more to my collection. Moving on, we have my next newest palette that I got for Christmas. I actually have not had a chance really to use it yet. Like I said, I've been sick a lot this year, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it, so it's been kind of putting me on the back burner doing some things. And one of those is testing new palettes. My husband's grandparents picked me up this for Christmas. It is the 24 or 26 set for Holbein. Got off Amazon. So this is a pre-made set. I did not create this myself. I am beyond excited to try this palette out for fan art, actually. That's kind of the purpose I gravitated toward with this. Roman Schmal, real quick, is I believe, Polish brand. Holbein is actually a Japanese brand. And I would like to try some character fan art with that, because I think that would be a good fit. I finally sketched out something a couple weeks ago. that is ready and going to be testing my Holbein paints on, so look forward to that. In the future, I'll definitely try and post that on Instagram, so if you want to give me a follow over there, that's where I'm going to be posting a lot of artwork that maybe not seen here on the channel. Anything finished that's really good is going to go on my website, so feel free to give that a visit. You can kind of see my portfolio there of stuff I've done, of random pieces. I'm going to be updating it here in a few days when things calm down here, because I've got doctor's appointments and other things I have to go do. But I will be updating the website shortly with more artwork to view, so I hope you will take a look and tell me what you think. But next up, from Black Friday of 2022 is Da Vinci. Da Vinci is an American paint company located, I believe, out of California. And they love working with artists. The whole reason I even found out about this company is Denise Soden, formerly in Liquid Color. She works with them, and she has palettes by them, paints by them. It's amazing. She talks about them all the time, and I just was constantly curious. And they had a Black Friday sale, and I had to go check it out. So I picked up a bunch of colors, including her color at the time, Denise's green. I picked that up, and then a whole bunch of other colors, my Hansa Yellow Lights, my Pyrols, blues, a little bit of purple, earth tones, you name it. I picked up a little bit of everything. This is usually, when I create a palette, is how I start with these kinds of colors, with a few extra here, like this is extra, the Denise's green is extra, but I love it very much. They're definitely another one that does bright, vibrant colors. Real quick, this was painted on the Strathmore paper with Da Vinci watercolors. I showed this off on the channel not too long ago, doing a painting piece of it. And we have some very lovely lemons, which we'll take a little bit closer look. The light is just not really agreeing with me today. It's going to be cloudy for like a long time, so I've got my lights up here helping project the light and make things a little bit brighter. But yeah, unfortunately for a couple of cloudy days here, we're stuck with no natural light really, so that's unfortunate, but we work around it, don't we? Next up, the next three kind of all come together at the same time of about summer of 2022. We'll talk about Sennelier first. I showed off that water lily, and that was done in Sennelier watercolors for that delicate look. It's a honey-based watercolor, so I want to compare it to my other honey-based watercolors one day in a sort of versus series. I love versus series. It's kind of like, you never really talk bad about an art supply, but you talk about their differences and why those little things might make you choose one over the other. So I want to do versus of honey watercolors and see why you would choose what for which thing. So I picked this because I had the I actually picked up Rose Madder Lake, I think it's Genuine or something. I picked that up and used it very lightly for the water lily in conjunction with Opera Pink. Had the beautiful greens, created this great murky color gray here for the water. It was super fun. I loved working with these, and really I can't wait to do more floral work, because that is what I do when I reach for Sennelier, which, real quick, Sennelier is a French brand, a very famous French brand of watercolors and art supplies. I actually like to use a lot of their stuff, actually. Pastels and stuff, you name it. I love their stuff. Going on to the next brand that I picked up on a Jackson's sale. I tend to always grab these when they're on sale at Jackson's. Is my Schminka palette. Schminka is a German company, and they have quite an array of watercolors to choose from in their Horadam line. I picked most of these colors up my first go around, and then my second go around I picked up a couple more that just seemed like a good fit for me, as well as some of their super granulating colors, because most of the palette is not granulating. So I picked this brand to be mostly my smooth washes, less granulating, kind of less texture, except for these four. These four are super granulating, so the total opposite of the palette. But the whole purpose behind them and why I picked them up on a non-granulating palette is because I love the way Denise did the background here by adding this green. Most of the time I leave my background white, and I just wanted to pick up some colors I thought would make great background pieces. So I picked one of each of their super granulating line and decided I'm going to give it a try myself. So that is schminka. Next up is mgram. Mgram is another honey-based watercolor, much like ennelier and Roman Schmal. They are a local, to me, art company here in the United States, and they are bright, vibrant watercolors. You can even see it here in the pan that they are just some bright colors. So when I reach for Sennelier's honey watercolors, it's because they're delicate. When I want a honey watercolor that's bright and vibrant, I grab mgram. They're just a beautiful brand of paint. I love them, and I don't honestly use them enough as I should because I have so many brands to choose from. So I think an mgram painting's in order. Don't you agree, guys? Let's see what I can come up with. We're going to interject real quick from the pile, and we're going to lift this up here. And this is the Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolor set. This was my third ever watercolor palette. It's a little bit different than all these other ones in that this is a traditional Japanese watercolor. And they come out very opaque. They're kind of almost like a hybrid between watercolor and gouache. So I don't reach for this palette very often, but when I do, it's normally fan art of things that I enjoy. Because I just like the super flat look that it provides. Here, let me grab a piece that I made for my daughter. We have the good old portfolio here. There we go. My daughter went through a My Little Pony phase, and Applejack was by far her favorite, so I painted her a little Applejack, and as you can see, the watercolor is very flat, not very granulating, very smooth, and just very different, and I greatly appreciate that. So whenever I'm in a mood and the mood strikes, I will use this palette for mostly character art. Okay, let's set that back up there. Now, my second ever brand of watercolors here was Core. Core is very unique in that it uses its own special ingredient that's unique to it called Aquazol. And the Aquazol allows these very bright, and I mean bright, colors to just dance and flow across the page. You put a wash of water and take the very tip of your brush with pigment on it and dip it, it'll explode on the paper. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. I love it. Whenever I'm looking for a more abstract nature, or I'm not too worried about the control of the flow, I will grab my Core palette, and I love it. And then last but not least, we do have some bonus round stuff to talk about. But this is my first professional palette I ever made for myself. As you can tell by the sticker. Daniel Smith. This one's a little bit harder to open because it's a little bit larger. For some reason, it just takes a little more effort to get. This is a massive, massive palette. And I'm going to interject real quick to say that all these tins, since they kind of qualify as tools, now that you've seen them, they are from the brand Meeden, M-E-E-D-E-N. I love the small ones mostly, because when they lay down, they lay almost flat. This one here, the bigger one, doesn't lay as flat. So it unfortunately pools here a little bit, you can see, but I can mix lighter, not so heavy colors here, and it works out well. So, there we go. But this palette started out small, much like these, and I've just added to it over the years, since I've had this since about 2019, I believe. My husband has found colors for me. I've added colors. Art subscription boxes or specialty boxes have added colors for me. This Sleeping Beauty Turquoise Genuine was from Art Snacks box not too long ago that I got super excited for, goodness. Art Snacks also at one point had a watercolor box for World Watercolor Month, and they included things like Cascade Green, Rose of Ultramarine, other fun stuff like that. So I have collected quite a lot of Daniel Smith, and I'm very glad I chose this as my first palette because it is all-encompassing. It is a workhorse that can be used for animals, plants. It can granulate, sometimes it doesn't. You can go a little more opaque. Really, it can do whatever I need it to do. So when I'm not sure what type of watercolor I want for a piece, I will default here to Daniel Smith and I will go with this palette. Now, real quick before we wrap things up, I want to talk about some extras here. These were all my professional artist quality paints. But I have, well, I should say that these are not artist quality. They most of them are. But if we wanted to talk about bonus palettes, I have this little Ennelier Aqua Mini. I picked this up from, I believe, December 2022's Paleteful Packs box. I haven't got a chance to use it because I already have a Ennelier palette, and if I travel, I tend to grab that Ennelier palette when I'm planning a floral or anything like that. So I may pop these colors out and actually add them to my Ennelier palette if I don't already have them in there. So that's something to consider. Also out of a Paleteful Packs box, though, many years ago, I got this Van Gogh pocket box. And I got to try it out and have some fun with it. And I'll take it with me on the go sometimes if I really want to. And I don't want to bother bringing one of my fancy palettes, but it's very nice. It's got all these little mixing wells here. It's got the brush. You can tell I've used it just a little bit, but a good color selection and a well-rounded little palette that I added to my collection via Paleteful Packs. And then we have my true, very first watercolor palette. That is the Winsor & Newton Cotman Pocket Box. You can tell this is the old design for it. They make it even smaller now. You can tell the colors are well loved. And that is because there's not as much pigment in these student grade watercolors, so I had to use more color, more paint to get more color. But this is the one that got me started back in 2019, before, there we go. Before I got my Daniel Smith for World Watercolor Month of 2019, which is July, if you're curious. And I keep mentioning it and I haven't said when it is. It's July, my birthday month. It's actually super fun. I'll be participating again this year with, and I'll probably, like usual, pick up a new brand of watercolor, because why not? In fact, if you've got a suggestion for a brand to add to my collection, go ahead and leave it down in the comment section down below. Or if you just want to talk about one of the brands I used, which one's your favorite, which one do you want to get, just tell me everything. I want to hear it. But I guess that about wraps things up. That's about everything I have to go over for watercolor paint and paper and everything like that. I hope you found this video useful. Even if it was just background noise for you guys to listen to. Maybe it helped you pick out your new palette, or maybe you're going to avoid something in the future. I hope it helped you. But I guess we're going to go take care. Have a good one. And bye for now.